everyone. Good morning. You're all stuck with me until you get for a break, so say good morning. All right. I thought you were going to do the rest of the session for me, but before I start, let me give a brief about the company itself. Some of you who may know me know the company. I've been part of some of these sessions earlier in Bangalore and Kochi and other places. We are a new kid on the block. We started in 2016, 9 years old. We are a small company, 600 people. But like some wise man said, good things come in small packages. So here we are. We started our first AA implementation in 2019. And we did our second implementation for a very large bank here in Tamil Nadu, City Union Bank. We did their jewel loan system, which we basically tried to build a complementary solution to their manual jewel loan approval process. So today, that complementary system is in production, giving about 99.4% accuracy. And that's when, around 2019, 2020 is when our AA journey started. So from then on, tens of millions of data processed, a lot of implementations. And we are today a AA-first company. We are small, like I said, but we are trying to put a dent in the AA universe, I would say. That being said, I will get into my title talk, The Intelligence of Many, Murmuration and the Next Era of AI. We started at 10 o'clock, 1 hour, 20 minutes into the session. We had a lot of AI. Honorable Minister spoke about voice-based services, self-serving agents, and things like that. And the esteemed panel here spoke about human in the loop and agents and whatnot. So I'm not going to really talk more about AI. You will hear a lot about AI for the rest of the day. But I would rather talk more in terms of what AI has learned from nature, and or at least in our realm or in our world within Zuci Systems, how we took inspiration from nature and we tried to deploy an agentic AI model. So I'm not going to get into the technicalities much, but I'll try to keep it as much as a storytelling as I can so that it's more relevant for audience that are not so technical, because I'm not that technical, firstly. So that being said, what is murmuration? I'll probably, give you a little bit of, an insight into a video. Probably you can watch it, and I will then get into what it is and what it does. I'm pretty sure many of you would have seen it. I don't know, with all the cell phone towers and everything in Chennai, if you get to witness this. But murmuration, like she said, it's a natural phenomenon. A natural phenomenon of thousands of starlings flying in synchronized waves. And you often see this in the West, especially in countries like England and a lot of other places, especially during autumn and winter. Why do birds murmurate? Ornithologists say that, I'm just waiting for the noise to go. Imagine this eerie, beautiful visual, right? You would have seen this in some place or the other, but this is a real happening in a lot of places in England and in Europe. Now, ornithologists say that birds murmurate for 3 reasons. One is, it's a defense against predators. Number 2, sharing information between them. And number 3, to keep themselves warm. When I say sharing information, not like communicating or speaking, identifying food sources during winter and things like that. So birds murmurate in this form. So this is the way they basically come together and they speak and they identify food sources during winter. They try to stay away from predators. They also try to keep themselves warm in cold weather. So how do they do this? Very, very interestingly, there is no central decision maker or a bird leader or somebody like that. There is no lead bird that basically takes all of them in a certain direction, or there is no central decision maker in this process. All that they do is, each starling or bird looks at a few around them, and then they actually adapt. And they don't do this through instruction again. They do this in the form of continuously improved local decisions, as I would call it. When I say local decisions, because they see some kind of a pattern emerging in the next few words, and then they adapt it and they do it. And the entire flock of starlings come together and do this in a synchronized fashion. Now, they avoid collision, they adapt to wind, and they evade predators, all in the process by forming this incredible, beautiful, formidable, flock of formation, or the way in which they do this. So we were thinking in Zuci when an engagement came to us, I'll talk briefly about the engagement. When an engagement came to us, we were thinking, how do we get inspired by this and try to put together a solution that would just act in a way how the starlings work, which is with no central decision maker, with no instructions. How do they interact and build intelligence, and in the process don't have any kind of chaos, but rather try to build an intelligence layer using interactions. And that's what we try to take as a blueprint and move forward. So nature's blueprint for agentic AI is what we took as an inspiration and tried. What would it look like if AI can do this in an enterprise? Because the engagement that came to us was a larger one, and the industry was market research, which I will again talk about in a little bit. But given the industry, given the challenges pertaining to the industry, which we will deep dive in a moment, we were thinking of actually putting together an AI model, but after a lot of brainstorming, after a lot of discussion, we thought it will be good to have a set of specialized agents that carry intelligence that would be able to interact in order to bring an intelligence layer into the whole process as far as the solutioning goes. So these are the key things that we took from nature's blueprint. Like I said, there is no central decision maker, simple local rules, complex global behavior. Like I said, the starlings look at the ones next to them, which is the local rules, but they work at a global level, which is the entire flock goes together. And then there is a shared purpose, and there is continuous adaptation. Like we said, every starling has is part of the purpose, and it adapts to how the flock goes together. And then, like I said earlier, intelligence emerges from interaction more than instruction. So we took this blueprint and we tried to apply it to an industry from where the engagement came for us. The industry is market research, and before I get into the challenge, let me talk about the specifics of this industry and what kind of challenges it offers. Many of you would have known this, right? Market research is, you have a lot of global firms, Fortune 1000 firms that do research across geographies. For instance, you might get, the firm might get an order to look for respondents from Asia or Africa with respect to how their food habits are, or let's say, how their, patterns are with respect to the way their generations are evolved, or for any specific task, let's say, right? So these surveys come to market research firms, or from market research firms, it goes to companies who would be able to give a bid estimation for such kind of surveys, basically, right? The biggest challenge, or some of the challenges that you see in this industry is, one, you don't get, unlike IT, you don't get detailed 20-page structured documents as RFPs. You will get a 3 to 4 liner in an email saying, this is the survey, this is what needs to happen, this is the geography kind of a thing. Secondly, there is high volume because the surveys can be huge, and there is tight deadlines to respond. You don't have the luxury of looking into every inch of detail before you decide to submit a bid estimation. And number 3, the first credible response, which means it has to be plausible, there has to be some level of confidence when the estimate goes out, which is the credibility factor. So the first credible response has a higher win rate. And there is a certain level of subject matter expertise to this, right? In the earlier panel session, we spoke about, how do we bring in the, subject matter expertise? How do we elevate specialists who can do, or who can be diverted to other jobs rather than trying to do mundane things, right? So one of the challenges with market research is there is a lot that analysts or specialists will get from past lessons of bids that they have submitted. So that subject matter expertise, or what we call as domain knowledge, needs to be applied in this bid estimation response. So When it comes to this industry, the challenge is not about, responding. I mean, one of the challenges is, of course, responding quickly, but at the same time, it's not just about the data. It's about responding quickly, accurately, repeatedly every time. And at the same time, the size of the RFP is very less. It doesn't really matter, but it's a question of how speed and how you are able to navigate the challenges with respect to speed and ambiguity. So as they call it in the market research industry, it's a fast fingers world. How early can you respond? How accurately can you respond? How can you repeatedly respond to every bid with that level of detail and things like that? But the challenge doesn't end here. It goes even further. There is a set of quantitative data that you can deal with in this industry. I'm pretty sure it's the same in any other industry. Like I spoke about the City Union Bank example, where we started an AA implementation. I remember when the engagement came to us, the mandate that was given to us back in 2020 was, if a branch manager in Sirgari or Chidambaram or Kumbakonam is in one of our branches who is sitting there, he can decide when the customer walks in to pledge his gold jewel, the branch manager can look at the face of the prospect or the customer and say whether he will repay the money and take the jewel back or not. Will your AI model be able to do that? So that's a quantitative data that we are talking about, right? So when it comes to underwriting, loan processing, any industry, there are a set of parameters. Some are quantitative, some qualitative, some are unknown and things like that. Similarly, in market research, if you look at it, there are a set of formula-oriented, quantitative, or what I call as deterministic variables. For instance, you take CPI, which is cost per interview. When you do an interview of a survey respondent, you need to find out what that cost is. So for that, you can apply a formula like LOI, which is length of interview, IR, which is incidence rate, sample size, which geography they belong, and things like that. Similarly, other quantitative elements could be, based on rules, what the system knows, and all of that. But most important is the heuristic, which is the experience part of it. That comes only from a subject matter analyst. So we need to take the heuristics part of it, which is more of an analyst or a domain-based person's knowledge, and then apply it on deterministic. And then there are also uncertain elements in this, which is missing details, ambiguous phrasing, and everything. So the real difference was not the quantitative element. If you look at it, it was the analyst's judgment. So how did we do that? We thought we can do this with a single model. We thought we can use one artificial intelligence model and do it. But the biggest challenge was, in a single model, not everything could be combined. We wanted to build an AI model that could last, not just works. So we chose not to go for a single AI model because balancing formula, ambiguity, and judgment was not that easier. So what did we do? We came up with multi-agent intelligence. So we moved from traditional automation/AI into an agentic AI model where we deployed specialized agents, which basically were many reasoning entities or thinking entities. And then we brought in concurrency where they can interact with each other, just like the murmuration of starlings. And similarly, we also made the agents, they make the decisions. It was not one controller or one agent doing it, but all of them interacting and making it. So we made the shift to agentic AI, basically. And we didn't scale the model. Like I said, we just tried to scale the intelligence part of it. Here are the agents. I have 1 minute and 10 seconds left. I'll try to keep it as easy as possible. Here are the agents that we deployed, or in the murmuration world, these are the starlings that we had. So we had an extractor agent which reads the email, and then we had a clarification agent which was tied to Microsoft Teams, and it would send queries. Similarly, we had deterministic, which is for calculation, heuristics for past experience and everything. And then we had to look at historical similarities from the past, then look at a CPA predictor agent and everything. And finally, we had a adversarial or a critic agent, which basically asks, have we covered everything? Are we missing anything that would decrease the success ratio of this bid and things like that? And finally, there was one orchestrator agent that we used. It was not a central decision maker. It was not the lead bird, but it was more like an air traffic controller that is giving signals to flights in the sky saying, go here, go there, bring down the altitude and things like that. So it was just passing signals, but not making decisions. all these agents or starlings came together and made a difference to the implementation itself. And these were the continuous learning loops that we had. And from data, the system learned. From the system, it learned the agents, patterns, everything. And finally, from humans, when a change was made, it did not just register the change, but it actually asked, why did you make this change? And that made every bit sharper, actually. So with this particular implementation, we were able to ensure that any future bids, the organization would be able to successfully bid much better because the human in the element was taken into consideration as far as any changes, everything goes. And as a result of that, we had this impact. I'm out of time. I'll finish it in a minute. Sorry about that. So the impact was we were able to give 2x faster responses, 90% accuracy. We had analysts freed up for more strategic work. And the system, like I said, improved with every bit that we did because the agent was continuously learning. It was learning, it was negotiating, it was reasoning, it was improving. That's how I would put it. And if you are looking to implement agentic AI, here are some lessons that we learned in the process that I wanted to share. Design for coordination, not for control. Secondly, don't scale the model, scale judgment, because scaling the model is more automation, but scaling the judgment is more intelligence, basically. And we moved away from AI model building to AI orchestration. We took care of the infrastructure orchestration part of it. We didn't look at it as a single model, but we tried to see what would be the infrastructure needed for this, what is the kind of orchestration that we need to make. Because I think for enterprises in the future, AI as an infrastructure would be a bigger challenge than saying, the genius doesn't lie in building a model. The genius actually lies in building the infrastructure and the orchestration needed to run the AI model. And finally, we enhance the analysts to do more strategic work. We have business analysts in our organizations. We have subject matter experts. With AI coming in, we'll be able to utilize them, leverage them for much better work. That's what we did for this organization where we implemented. And finally, when intelligence was distributed, we saw that coordination replaces control, just like the murmuration thing. And we saw that the work transforms itself, which is, like I said in the first slide, we were able to, the starlings could find food sources. When they coordinate, they were able to evade predators, and they were able to avoid collision, all because there was distributed intelligence. And that's what all these agents did when we did the implementation. It is in production now, bringing in a lot of savings and ROI, and we are getting into a much larger league with this implementation. Thank you again for patiently listening to me. I'm a little over time, thank you, but thanks for listening. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
We wanted to build something that lasts, not just works. Powerful words. I now request Mr. Janardhan Santhanam, CIO of TCS, to please hand over a memento to our speaker. Can we keep the round of applause going, please? Thank you so much, sir.